Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Jessica Milheiser, and I am presenting today's webinar on building your business foundation roadmap, essentially setting yourself up for success. So here's kind of a layout of what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be starting with your business identity, your business operations, your organization, documentation, and some manuals that you'll want in place if and when you get ready to hire some help. So getting right into it, we're going to start with your business identity. And this is a really important part of the business that I sometimes feel maybe gets overlooked, right? Because you're trying to build your business, you're trying to get clients, you're trying to make money, you're trying to get revenue, and you're trying to grow. But you need to build an identity for yourself so you know which direction to take your business. So I like to think of your business identity as who you are, what you're about, and where you're going. So I would be remiss if I didn't at least touch on your why. Your why is out there in the world today and everyone's talking about it, and rightfully so. You need to think about why you're in business. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you choosing now to start doing what you're doing? And, thinking about how are you going to be serving others? What problem are you solving for others? And why you? The market is saturated these days with all kinds of businesses, all kinds of entrepreneurs. What's going to make you different? What's going to make you stand out? And why should people do business with you over somebody else? So really think about your why and just what your reasoning is, what your purpose is, and just, really understand what your motivation is. So once you kind of have a good understanding of that, I want you to think about your mission statement and your core values. So your mission statement is a simple, clear, concise sentence that lets people know what your business's purpose is. What is its reason for existence? So my favorite example to use is TEDx. Their mission statement is spread ideas. 2 words, that's it. And you know exactly what they're about, exactly kind of what realm they operate in, and what they're about. So in partnership with that, I want you to think about your core values. So your core values are your personal and professional beliefs. And I tie these 2 things together because as an entrepreneur in particular, it is difficult to separate the personal from the professional because your business, in a lot of ways, is who you are. And so what you're putting out into the world needs to resonate for you personally and professionally. And I think today it matters more than it maybe ever did. People want to do business. People want to work for, people want to collaborate with businesses and people that kind of resonate with who they are. So who you are and what you're about is more valuable now today than I think it has been before. So I like to say for core values, pick 3 to 5. Don't pick too many because you want them to be meaningful and valuable. So maybe write down a list of like 10 or 15 words and kind of hone in on 3 to 5 that are really calling to you, that are really resonating with you, and write out, this is resonating with me because I think this is a good value for me and my business because. That way you'll have a really clear understanding of this is what matters to me, this is what I'm about, this is what I want to put into the world. And so then we're moving on to vision. So vision, I think, is your most important part of this section. I mean, they're all important, but I think your vision is hugely important because you don't know how to get where you're going if you don't know where you're going. Like if you don't know what your end game is, how are you going to get there? What steps and goals are you going to implement to get you to where you're trying to go? So there are people that are of the mindset, and I was one of them for sure, that was like, oh, like, where do you see yourself in 3, 5, or 10 years from now? Well, I think the pandemic has sort of changed everybody's life in a bunch of different ways. And I'm not sure that we need to necessarily think about this component in terms of, oh, here's where I want to be in 10 years. I think instead, where we should start shifting is, in a perfect world, if you had everything the way you wanted it, if you were doing all the things you wanted, what does that look like? Do you want to be an online international business? Do you want to have 2, 3, 4, or 5 brick and mortars domestically? Do you want to have a large team? Do you want to stay a lifestyle business? What do you want to be, a keynote speaker at a large conference? Do you want to be, creating an educational curriculum? What does your vision look like in the perfect world? What are you doing? What does that look like for you? And then you can break that down, and you can break that down into pieces and into timelines. So you can be like, okay, great. In 3 months, I'd like to have this accomplished. In 6 months, I'd like to have this certification. In a year, I'd like to be hosting, 3 classes a week that are completely full with a wait list. Whatever that looks like for you in terms of how it relates to your vision, start creating smaller, tangible goals for yourself so that you can be moving in that direction. So that's kind of the encompassment of your business identity, who you are, what you're about, and where you're going. And revisit these. I would like you to revisit these at least annually. Do they still resonate? Do they still align with who you are, what you're about, where you're going? Does this still make sense? Because from here, you're going to be making all your business decisions, changes, adjustments, pivots, hiring and training potentially, whatever that looks like, all comes back to your business identity. So it can be fluid, and I encourage you to make changes as appropriate, but make sure you're always coming back to these things. Okay, moving right along, we're going to go into your business operations. So your business operations is essentially how you run your business. What are your policies? What are your procedures? How do you complete your daily tasks? And what is your way of doing things? So if you have solid operations in place, this is going to save you time. This is going to save you money. And ultimately, it's going to make you more money because it's going to free up time so that you can start working on those revenue enhancing tasks. So what I want you to think about is, are you clear on how you run your business? What are some of the key functions to making sure your flow, daily, weekly, monthly, is moving efficiently? So like, how do you take payment? How do you communicate with current clients or potential clients? How do you track leads or new inquiries? Do you have an organized plan for how you do your social media, track your finances, log your expenses? How do you stay on track with your day-to-day? How do you complete those daily tasks? Also, do you need a software system? And if you do, what do you need it to do? Do you need it to track projects? Do you need it to act as a CRM? Do you need it to send invoices and take payment? Do you need it to push out social media posts without you having to manually push out the posts? Think about how you can make your daily, weekly flow easier to manage and more consistent. The other partner to this section is going to be policies. So if you're a solopreneur, you're really only going to need outward facing policies. So things like payment processing. Do you do refunds? Your time is super valuable, right? So what's your policy around cancellations? What about people being late or no showing? Do you have any policies around that? If you're a product-based business, do you accept returns? Do you offer credits? Do you offer exchanges? What does that look like? If you're a service-based business, and you've come to the end of a relationship with a client, whether it's amicable or not amicable, what are your policies around that? How do you process a termination with a client? And then, with sick or COVID, like, do you want to have a policy around that? Yes or no? And policies are really in place to protect you, protect your business, and protect anyone that interacts with your business. It's trying to mitigate any risks or liabilities. Essentially kind of a cover your ass. I have a policy for this, this, and this. So get clarity on what policies you should have in place and make sure that they're visible to anybody that you interact with. If you do have a team, there are going to be some internal policies that you want to think about. So PTO, social media posts, any phone usage, thinking about confidentiality agreements, thinking about sick policies. Maybe you've got some disciplinary action protocols, anything that's going to make your internal flow with your team move better and just create a better team culture. So, okay, so that is operations kind of in a nutshell. Moving on to, basically, this is my formula. This is the formula that I like to use. So it's your business identity plus your business operations equals your business foundation. And just like a house, right? You're going to build everything else on top of that foundation. So you want to make sure that you have a solid identity and operations in place so that as you grow, you can facilitate that growth and withstand the capacity to grow over time. All right, organization. So now we're kind of moving into the planning for growth phase, right? So organization is huge. So I want to kind of give you some of my tips and tricks that I use to help me stay organized, stay on top of my work. And essentially the goal of this section is to create a routine and give you structure within your daily, weekly workflows. So your time is limited. I talk about this all the time. Time is your resource. So you want to make sure that you are prioritizing and that you are using that time wisely to maximize productivity and to ultimately maximize, revenue generating tactics. So for me, every Sunday evening, I spend 30 to 60 minutes and I look at my week ahead and I take a look at, what networking events do I have? What meetings do I have? Do I have any personal events? I take a look at what that looks like and I see what space is left. Okay, cool. Now I want to add in time blocks. Here's an admin time block. Here's a block for me to work on my business. So admin stuff could be things like emails, phone calls, follow-ups, leads, paying bills, any kind of those tedious tasks that have to get done. That's kind of what I consider your admin time block. Anything that I'm doing that's working on my business within that time block, that's going to be stuff like, okay, I'm working on social media content. Okay, I'm taking a look at my next 30 to 90 days and I'm seeing what's coming down the pipe. Are there things that I have to start preparing, planning, prepping? Are there holes where I'm like, ooh, like I should be doing more of this, or I need to get this on the schedule somewhere? Just kind of planning those next 30 to 90 days out. What does that look like? Maybe I'm evaluating other opportunities. Do I need to be looking at more networking groups? Do I need to be doing more B2B stuff? What are people in my industry doing? What are the current trends and how can I stay on top of that? So that's kind of what I call working on your business, because you're thinking about the strategic flow and the future planning of how to move your business forward. Another thing I do is prioritize. So I also look at my week and I'm like, okay, cool. What must I get done? What absolutely has to be done? What do I absolutely have to do? Great. Those are my musts. Next, I'm going to move into what would I like to do? What are some of the things that I would like to get done that would feel really good at the end of the week if I accomplished? Great. That's my next list. And then at the bottom of that list is kind of my non-urgent tasks. What are some things that I can probably kick down the road, or maybe it's just not super important and I can just let it go anyway. So going into prioritizing your time within the structure of your flow. These things are going to help you move into Monday and feel really good, feel really structured, feel really strong about, what's coming down. I also have a Monday morning checklist. It's literally called a Monday morning checklist and it's right on my wall and I look at it every week. So things for me are like, do I have any meeting or networking follow-ups that I have to send out? Do I need to confirm appointments? Are there Zoom links for meetings that I'm having that I need to send out? Are there any addresses that I need to confirm for upcoming meetings? How's my social media content looking for the week? Is there anything that needs to be done there? Where are my clients at this week? Who's doing what? Do I need to follow up anywhere? Is there anything special that's happening? Okay, so my Monday morning checklist is basically a way for me to organize, get structured again, and just be like, here are the things that I need to accomplish today to continue setting myself up for success. And I'm a huge fan of checklists. I think you should have checklists for all the things, admin responsibilities, social media content, financial or expense checklists, whatever is going to help you. The goal of checklists is to keep you on track and to make sure things are not forgotten. It's not the same thing as just like moving through and checking off a box. It's like, no, here are the things that have to get done. Here are the things that I don't want to miss. So I think they're super valuable. Another thing that I do is I color code my digital calendar. So my business groups are in a certain color. All of my clients have their own color. My personal events are in their own color. If I have anything particular or special coming up, that's in its own color. It's just a great way to help me visually see the week and month ahead. Here's what's coming up. Here are some things that are going on. Anything that's going to help me see and find information quickly and easily. And then lastly, in this section, I just want a quick touch on emails because emails today are crazy. And I would highly encourage you, if you're not already doing so, to create tabs and folders for yourself. And that's very easy to do. All you do is just, you select an email, you can hit move to, and you can type whatever folder you need. Boom, move that out of your inbox. So the goal being, you get an email, you respond to it, you're done with it, you hit move to, whoop, I'm going to categorize it and push it out of my inbox and into this folder. I would suggest this over using the archive method because archive, you still have to search for the email. And if you don't really know what you're searching for, or you can't recall what you're searching for, that you might find challenging. So I really like the folders and tabs because that keeps everything categorized. And again, you're able to find the information quickly and easily. Okay, so that's kind of the organization gist. I know it's a lot, but I want to kind of be mindful of time and just kind of keep moving through these sections. So next is going to be documentation. So documentation is, I think, hugely important, especially if you're growing, especially if you're thinking about hiring some help. So the goal of documentation is to make any task that you do regularly easily repeatable. Okay, so a lot of entrepreneurs, we do it all ourselves, especially if you're, obviously, if you're a solopreneur, right? So you do it all yourself. You know what needs to be done. You know how it needs to be done. You know the way that you like to do it. So you kind of just do it. You do it without thinking about it. The goal of documentation is to get what's in your head down on paper and stored in an easy to find place. What this is going to do for you is this is going to limit risk and liability. This is going to increase your productivity. This is going to increase your quality of work. This is going to reduce errors. And it's going to give you the opportunity to plug and play a future employee if and when you get there. So think about, like, if you're kind of one of those people that's like, okay, well, where do I start? Well, what questions do you get asked repeatedly by clients or by staff? Like, do you get asked questions, like the same kind of question, a lot? Great, let's start there. Let's write that down. There could also be things like, how do you send invoices? How do you process payment? How do you process refunds or credits? How do you onboard new clients? What does your inventory look like and how do you track that? How do you schedule meetings and or send reminders for meetings? Is there any email verbiage that you're kind of constantly sending out on the regular? Write that up, copy paste it, and then tweak it as needed, you know, depending on who you're sending it to. What about scheduling social media? So thinking about your daily tasks, your daily, weekly tasks and functions, and what you do consistently on a repeatable basis. Those are the things I would start writing down. Write these processes down step by step. Here's how you do this task. Here's how you do this task. Here's how you do this task. You don't want to be reinventing the wheel, and it all comes back to time. If you're able to repeat the same task the same way every time, that's going to save you time to then focus on more revenue generating items. And then in this same section, I want to start thinking about, or having you guys think about, creating digital folders. So basically you're creating categories, kind of just like with your emails, you're doing that with all your documents. So, you know, business documents, your identity documents, your policies, your procedures, maybe finances and expenses, maybe social media content, any clients that you work with. I want all of those to be their own separate folder so that as you're creating these step-by-step documents, you put them in their respective folder. Again, this comes back to finding your information quickly and easily and saving you time. So that's kind of how all of this works together, and just keeping you consistent and efficient in your workflow and allowing you to increase productivity and quality of work. Okay, moving into the last section, we're going to talk about manuals. So maybe you're in a place now where you're like, okay, awesome. Like my business is growing. I'm getting a consistent increase in demand with my service or product. I'm having a hard time keeping up. Things are getting missed. I'm feeling a little disorganized. I really need some help. That's awesome. Good for you, because growing a business is hard. So if you're at this place, even if who you're thinking about hiring is maybe just a part-time admin person or a part-time virtual assistant, you still need to know how you're planning to bring that person on. So the very first thing you're going to want to work on is your internal hiring and training manual. And this is your guide to how you want to find, interview, hire, and onboard and train this new person. So for example, like, what's the job? What are you hiring to do? What are the responsibilities? What are the expectations? What is the role? Okay, cool. How are you planning to find this person? Where are you posting the job? What's your budget for the posting? What kind of person are you looking for? What are those qualities and experience parameters that you're looking for? Cool. What's your interview process? How are you planning to interview them? What questions are you planning to ask? And then once you find that perfect candidate, how are you hiring and onboarding them? What information do you need? What do they need to know to get started? And how are you planning to train them in? Because it's your job as the business owner and the employer to set them up in a way so they will be successful. You need to give them the tools, the correct tools, to perform their role well. So that's the internal hiring and training manual. That's how you're planning to bring this person on. Externally, you have your employee handbook. This is your team's guide to working for you. So you can hand them the manual and be like, this is everything you need to know about working for me and working in this business. So you'd have things like, here's the business identity, here's some stuff about payroll, HR, benefits, here's some stuff about, certifications, here's some training information, here's where you can access all of our documentation to perform those tasks step by step. Basically, giving them the manual, having them have it as a resource and a reference as they move through their time with you. And I just want to take a pause and say, neither of these manuals have to be huge. They just have to be big enough to contain all the appropriate information for this to work well, for this to be done successfully. So they could be 10 pages, they can be 50 pages, they can be anywhere in between, but it's just going to be whatever is necessary for them to know how to move forward. And then lastly, we're just going to quick touch on the operations manual. This is basically the A to Z running of your business. All the different hats you wear, those are going to be different sections. And within each section is going to be a breakdown of how to perform that role and function. It's a lot. It's a big one. It's really going to depend on like how busy you are, how many staff you have, what's your ramp up, are you struggling to be consistent? That's when you're going to want to start thinking about creating an operations manual, because there is a lot to it, and this is kind of a very large project. But if you spend the time on it, it is well worth the investment down the road. So coming back to documentation and these manuals and organization, all of it comes back to reducing risk and liability, increasing productivity, increasing quality of work, reducing errors, and facilitating a better team culture. Okay, so some of this stuff is going to be time inducive, right? Like documenting and getting organized and creating these manuals, it takes time. It does take time. But the investment that you put in up front will pay dividends on the back as you grow. So that's the manual section. And I'm going to move into a quick wrap up here. I hope there was something that you found valuable in this webinar. And if you have any further questions, please contact me. I'd love to connect. And here's all my contact information. So email, website, here are all my social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I do offer a 30-minute free consultation. So if this webinar was kind of really resonating with you and you do feel like you're in a growth phase and you would like some help, please contact me. I'd love to set up a consult. We can talk about where you're at, where you're trying to go, and how I can help you get there. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.